here's Brodie Brazil.
In this video, I'll address one of the most common questions I used to get as a flight instructor, and that came from students wondering, how often should I be taking these flight lessons? They're just getting started. It's all new to them. Is the answer 1 day a week, 5 days a week? Look, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on your situation, what you're capable of with your time frame, with your financial constraints. But I do want to spell out here in the course of this video a couple different types of student pilot paces. Now, this could work if you're trying to get your private, or if you're going from private to instrument, instrument to commercial, whatever. 3 different paces that I observed over the years. Number 1, there's the full-timer. Quite often, this is somebody who has relocated their entire life just to take care of this pilot training. So they want to get at this. They want to go regular. They want to go as fast as possible. They want to expedite their training because it's costing them, and that is their full-time mission in life right now. Then there's the motivated regular. That's what I was 20 some odd years ago back in the day. That's somebody who's got, other things going on. They're doing this kind of on the side, but they're motivated. They want to see it through, and they want to have it done in a timely fashion. Maybe not expedited as much as the full-timer, but they're ready to get to it. And then there's the lurker. The lurker comes and goes, and it's no disrespect, right? Sometimes it's just the opportunity's not always there for the lurker, or they've got a lot of things in life that they're interested in. They're just kind of dipping their toes in this. They can make progress. It will be a little bit more difficult. We will address all of these 3 types in just a second. But first, let me explain why you don't want to rush your flight training. I want you to think about watering a plant in a garden. What happens when you flood that plant with water, right? Some of it sinks in, but then you get to a certain point where it just kind of spills out the side. Now you're just wasting water. Versus pouring a little water, stopping, letting that water sink in, a little more water, let it sink in, maybe a 3rd round of water and let that sink in too. No puddles, no overflow, none of that. Because the best flight training comes with experiences that only come over time. Essentially, if you're just trying to flood your training all into 2 months, you're going to have that water spilling off the side. You're not going to capture all of those experiences. Things like, oh, you remember that night flight where we went out and you forgot your flashlight? You used a different flashlight that didn't have the red bulb in it, and all of a sudden we couldn't see in our night flight. Remember that? Now we know why it's always important to have a specialized night flight flashlight. Those types of things, those types of small little learning experiences that only come flight after flight after flight and putting yourself in these learning situations. If you try and slam it all in across a short period of time, you may not get all of those same experiences. Again, think about watering the plant. Go slow and stop. A little bit more and stop. Versus, hey, we're just going to flood this thing and pour all the water we can on it. It just doesn't work out best that way. So that's why you don't want to rush through your training. You'll be more seasoned and better off to stretch it out just a little bit and gain from more experiences. On the other side of the coin, there is a reason you don't want to lag, and that's because so much can be lost between lessons. If they are a week apart, 2 weeks apart, a month apart, and look, things happen. Vacations need to happen. Other things in life come up. I'm not saying don't ever let your training be interrupted, but so much can be lost between these lessons, which if you're new at flying, this is all physically and mentally demanding. And yeah, it's hard to retain all of that in the first place, let alone if you stretch it out over a long period of time. If you do this, if you lag during your training, whether it's intentional or whether you have no control over it, you're inevitably delaying your progress and you're delaying your rewards, and it might end up costing you more, and there may be some more setbacks, but there is a happy medium between not rushing it and not lagging on the timeline of your flight training. Let me run through a list here of characteristics of a productive student pilot in my mind. A productive student pilot is somebody who studied in advance. I'm not saying they know exactly what they're about to do, but they have a pretty good idea what this lesson is about, why we're doing this, and what is about to be expected of them. Me as the instructor, it's also my job to make sure they're ready for this, but if they can at least meet me halfway, so when they walk in, I'm not literally speaking another language to them, that we're on the same page, that greatly helps us make progress. A productive student pilot is also fresh and rested. You wouldn't believe how many times somebody would come straight from their work to the airport for their flight lesson. And look, that's the way it had to be. This is their time of the day to do it. However, a lot of times they would bring fatigue and stress and external elements from the business or personal life to the airport. They were not ready for this. And then I would look over and say, well, not really say, but you're spending like $500-$600 on this lesson, and you're not all really here right now to absorb this, to benefit from this, to learn from this. You're either, distracted or tired or both. So fresh and rested, you owe yourself that as best as possible. I understand. I'm a parent. I get it. You can't always be perfect, but do the best you can before lessons. A productive student always prefers right over just done. In fact, they demand right over done. It's their life. It's their life. It's their certificate. It's the lives of people they'll be flying around. You want to make sure that they understand the right things to do, the right way to pilot. Instead of, I just want my certificate, I want this done, and I want to move on. Granted, we all want the end result, but to know that you went about it the right way, the process and the background and everything that goes with being a proper pilot, you'd rather have it right than just done. A productive student pilot for me is reasonable. They understand that maybe once in a while somebody's 5 minutes late, or maybe they can go out and pre-flight the airplane without me. Heck, I taught you how to pre-flight the airplane. I trust you in this, but it'll help me get two things done at once. We've already briefed, or we'll brief when we get out there. Bottom line is, they're not so rigid in expectations. They're flexible, reasonable, flexible, whatever the word is. A productive student pilot goes with the flow, a little bit of give and take in the course of your relationship with the instructor and the lessons and the syllabus and the weather on certain days that just, not conducive to the flight lessons that we were trying to accomplish. And then a productive student pilot, especially if you are one of those full-time students. By the way, we will answer the question, how many lessons per week or per month in a second. But one of those full-timers, they need to have a personal life. I just said here, you don't want too much of it to cross over into your flying, but at the same respect, if flying is all you're doing and you're a full-time student, like that's a lot of water to be drinking out of a fire hose for 6 or 8 or 10 months while you run through 4 or 5 ratings and certificates. So you must have a personal life and some escape besides flying, because if that's all you do 7 days a week, I've seen this, it's going to eventually break you down and slow you down. Balancing your life throughout the process of flight training will definitely help you. Okay, the 3 types of students here and their paces and my recommendations. We finally got to it. The full-timer, I would recommend maximum 5 days a week of flight training. Now you could do ground school on day 6, maybe even 7 if you're really serious about it, but take a break. Rest and breaks here for the full-time student become equally important to the lessons they're actually taking. Again, go back to the whole analogy of watering the plant in the garden. Too much water, it just spills off. You wasted it. Instead of saturating, removing, saturating, removing. That's what we're trying to do in flight training. It's also really important if you're a full-timer to review and debrief everything, because quite often you do flight lessons 5 days a week, and some of it starts to blend. Was that last Thursday we worked on stalls? How did that go again? To connect the dots, you would think it would be easier when you're day after day, but sometimes you also get equally lost because it was so busy and so much all at once that it works the opposite way on you. So important to really keep tabs and review, because you're going at such a fast speed. Review and debrief everything you do. Kind of slow it down as best as possible. 5 days a week max, in my opinion, of flying for the full-timer. This was me back in the day, the motivated regular. And this was me out there at the airport about 2 days a week. Now, sometimes it was 1 day a week. I got busy, right? Whatever. Other times it was 3 days a week. Like I really wanted to learn how to land. I was close and I really wanted to get out there and get as many reps as possible. But I think in defining the motivated regular, it's somebody who's not rushed, but also keeps a consistent pace. Like they have something else in their life. They have a full-time job or family or school or whatever they're doing. So this is kind of like their side gig. It doesn't mean that they're any less focused on it. It's just not their number one thing or not their only thing in life at the moment. So this person usually finds a balance with other life duties. They make time to come out to the airport. They make time to study in the morning, at night, whenever. And honestly, this is a beneficial pace because I feel like it's hard to flood this type of student with too much. It's also hard to drought them, all right? Because they are getting out there about 2 days a week. And optimally, I think that's the right number. It lets you have the lessons, soak things in between. This to me, if you have the choice, this to me is the most beneficial frequency of flight lessons. Ground lessons may be separate, but flight lessons about 2 per week. Okay, we've arrived at the lurker. And again, I mean no disrespect here, but this is the way some people either operate or are forced to do their training. You got to be out there at least 2 days a week. 2 days a month, right? Think about what's less than 2 days a month. 1 day a month, 12 lessons a year. How much can you actually expect to progress in that time frame? But I understand some people are busy, their time won't allow it, their finances won't allow it, or they're just kind of only lightly into this. They're okay with taking their time, but that is fine. It just needs to be understood. There might be more lost between lessons here. It might cost this person more. So long as everybody understands this is just going to be a longer term project, let's not put time pressure on it, fine. There's no problem with that so long as everybody is on the same page with expectations. And again, it could cost more over a longer period, right? So you're not going to notice it instantly, but you will lose some information by not retaining it and repeating it in a timely fashion. 2 days a month, it's going to take a while. I would also hope that the lurker is working on their ground school skills and knowledge and all that stuff as much as they can. That's on their own especially. That's easy. That's free. That keeps them mentally sharp and prepared between lessons. And a lot of that will hopefully stick in between. So the lurker could at least do that, work on ground at a heavy pace if they're only going to fly about 2 days per month. So there you go. Hopefully I answered your question. Man, that took me more than 10 minutes to answer the question, but that's what I recommend for how often on flight lessons. No more than 5 days a week, optimally 2 days a week if that's your focus, but fewer than 2 days per month, good luck. That's going to be difficult to ever get anything accomplished. Subscribe to this channel for more content just like this, and hey, thumbs up on this video if it provided you some value.